Hey, Thomas from Field Tennis. I have a unique video for you today which is showing the tennis forehand technique in slow motion, but this time from the top view. I recorded all of my strokes using the drone, which records in 4K and 60 frames per second, to give you the sharpest forehand technique in slow motion, but from a completely different perspective. You're going to see 5 clips of forehands in slow motion, where I will demonstrate neutral stance forehand, open stance forehand, then both neutral and open stance forehands with movement, and finally, as a bonus, I even recorded the forehand slice. Since some parts of this video are shown in super slow motion, I won't distract you with my comments. Just watch those sections carefully, and later I'll jump in with a few ideas about what you can really notice for each of the 5 forehands shown. So, let's get started. So what are some interesting things that we can see here on the forehand? So we can see this slow preparation, and then what's important for most players, they don't see that, is this wrist leg. So you can see how long I'm holding my wrist back, I'm not pulling forward. So for many players, they try to accelerate the wrist too early and they lose this elastic slap, or how I call it slapping the ball here. So there's a slap. Another thing I would mention here, I'm not ATP pro, but you can see how calm is my head when I'm hitting the ball and it's in the direction of the ball, right? It's not forward. And the other thing I would mention here is that many players tend to stop their rotation as soon as they hit the ball. So they do turn sideways like this. Once they rotate about 90 degrees or something like this, they stop rotation, and that creates a very jerky, tense motion in the body, whereas you can see that I basically rotate almost 180 degrees. And another interesting thing that you can see down here through my foot is how stable is my foot, and it's not moving, right? So it's providing me balance and stability for the forehand. So when it comes to the open stance, I want to point out 3 things here in super slow motion. So the first one is the concept of coiling, meaning why are we playing open stance a lot? And that's because my shoulders have rotated more than my hips. So because there's this separation angle between my shoulders and my hips, which you can see from this angle really well, I create tension, I create torque inside my core muscles, and I use that torque then to pull. And so that's why open stance positions, open stance forehands are really powerful strokes, because we use that core to pull the upper body and release that tension. Another thing that's really obvious from here, and I'm gonna play a little bit back and forth, is this shoulder rotation. So many players are hitting the ball with their arm, but I want to show you this mechanism that you see how it all is basically based on body rotation, right? So I'll clear this up that you see better. And if I go a little bit back and forth, so notice my shoulders, so the shirt how I rotate, right? So when the ball is coming, we are turning into the ball with the whole body, and the arm is lagging, and especially the wrist is lagging, and then we get, at the end, we get the wrist slap and acceleration of the wrist. So that's the second thing to really notice and visualize from this angle. And the third one is that in this instance of the open stance, I'm transferring weight while I'm hitting from the right foot to the left foot. So as you can see, when I finish the forehand, my weight has transferred. Now that doesn't happen always, and as you will see in the fourth clip where I will show you open stance with movement, I'm not going to transfer weight when I'm hitting. But here I'm transferring weight. So you can see I'm starting here and I'm rotating, and while I'm rotating, I'm also transferring weight to this foot. So that also helps with generating here the angular momentum, angular speed of the racket.
Just a quick shout out to all the members who are supporting me financially through the YouTube membership program. I see you, I feel you, and I thank you. If you're interested in joining the YouTube membership program and getting access to over 120 videos, including the drone footage videos that I posted already last year, then click the join button below and check out all the tiers available in my YouTube membership program. Thanks again, let's get back to the video.
So when it comes to the neutral stance forehand on the move, here are three things we can observe. So the first one is, and one of the biggest challenges for tennis players, is that the preparation and the movement are happening at the same time, like parallel processing, right? So when I start moving to the side in the direction of the ball, I also start preparing. Now, why am I pointing this out? Because most players first move and then they execute the stroke. So then they start preparing. They move first. Once they get near the place where they will hit the ball, then they start the forehand preparation or backhand preparation, and they run out of time. So unfortunately, tennis is a pretty challenging and demanding sport, and you have to do parallel processing, if I can call it like that. That means while the preparation is going, the movement is also going, so they are coordinated. Now the second thing we can notice here is that when I position for the neutral stance forehand, I have arrived at the hitting point or the meeting point with the ball earlier than the ball, so I beat the ball, right? So I started here and I have a little bit of acceleration. I have an acceleration here because I want to get to the meeting point before the ball. So you can see I'm planting my foot down now. I'm planting my foot, so that means I have arrived. So if I put a timer on the screen and we check how much earlier am I here than the ball, I'm about 2500, 2600, right? So 2/10, a little bit more than 2/10 of a second, I have arrived at the meeting point before the ball, and that allows me to calm down. Because here I'm moving dynamically, now I've planted my foot and now I have time to calm down, and that of course is very important for precision of hitting, so that we hit the ball precisely into the sweet spot. If you're still moving while you're hitting, and I don't mean rotationally, but I mean like laterally, then it will be very difficult to hit the ball precisely. So you have to use the concept of beating the ball to the meeting point in order to get there early. And the third point I want to mention is that even though I was moving before, I must try now to stabilize. So you can watch my foot like I mentioned in the first clip of the neutral stance. You can see how stable the foot is and it's not moving at all. and it's holding me in position because that is my axis of rotation, right? So I stabilize on this foot. If you picture from this foot directly upwards towards the drone, like a stick, like an axis of rotation. Around this axis I rotate, and that allows me to stay balanced. So I want to stay balanced throughout the execution of the stroke, and when I'm done I can start recovering. Here are the main three things to observe when I'm moving to the open stance forehand to the side and hitting it here. So the first one is the one I mentioned before already, but you can observe it now in a different view so that you see preparation and movement are happening at the same time, right? So there has to be parallel processing. Upper body is doing its own thing, it's preparing for the stroke, while the lower body is moving to the ball. The second thing you can observe here is that in this instance of the open stance forehand, I'm not transferring weight while hitting, so I'm staying on this leg. So this is my axis, you can't see it, it's under my body, but you can see that while I'm hitting, you see this foot is in the air. And if you're gonna observe some pros hitting forehands after this video, go on YouTube and find some pros hitting in the match. You will see that in many cases they jump, right? So I'm just playing nice, so I'm on the ground, but they're going to jump off the outside leg and they're going to land first on the outside leg again. So that means they were not transferring weight to the leg when they were hitting, they were just driving upwards very strongly, very explosively. So this is an instance of hitting an open stance without transferring weight, so weight transfer comes later. And the third thing you can observe here is that even though I am rotating and turning in my body, I do want to give the ball good signal of direction, so my arm is extending forward straight and trying to kind of convey to the ball the direction that I have in mind, so that I extend my arm fully before it starts bending. So a common mistake is that while you're rotating your body in open stance, you're also pulling the racket too quickly across and not hitting the ball cleanly here with this straight line, right? So rotation gives you angular momentum, but you do need to somehow message to the ball what direction you have in mind, and that's what the arm's role is. So the arm has to tell the ball, okay, go there if that's your direction. If this is your direction, then the arm would have extended a bit more this way and then started to bend. And here are three interesting things you can observe on the forehand slice. So the first one is early preparation. So not waiting for the bounce, but again, the preparation and the movement are happening at the same time when I'm moving to the ball. So that's the first thing to remember, that's always happening. And the second one is the wrist lag. So many times players, when they're hitting forehand slice or backhand slice, they are too tight here in the wrist and they don't allow any lag and you can see how much lag I get, so that the racket opens up. So in the arm what's happening is supination, and now I'm going into some pronation. You can see that the racket here was quite open and here was almost perpendicular, and so this allows me to slap the ball and also negate the open racket face because I'm swinging downwards, which we cannot see from this angle. But the main point is that you have to relax your hand in order for the racket to lag, just like you do in normal ground strokes, topspin, forehands and backhands. And the third thing that is important to see is that I control the direction and I control my follow through, whereas most players, when they hit a slice, they just kind of let their racket swing across like this and they have no control of the follow through. So then they will typically put a lot of side spin on the ball and the ball is going to float. So if you have more controlled firm, you can see that the follow through is quite firm, I control it, then you will have much better control of the ball and a much cleaner, crisper slice. It will fly faster than if you swing across and you don't control the follow through. As soon as you hit the ball, you let go, it's not gonna be a good slice, so you have to control it like this with a firm extension and you're gonna have a very solid forehand slice.
If you're still with me and you found this video interesting and valuable, then I would appreciate any likes and subscriptions, sharing with your friends, spreading the word about this video. And since you're very interested in the forehand technique, then I recommend you go watch my next video, which is Modern Forehand Technique in 8 Steps. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.